This is what a face of a broken man looks like. Now I came out this morning all buzzing, ready to get that roll cage sorted, and then instantly hit a brick wall. Now this is the third video in so far and I'm already hitting problems. Yeah, it's not good. So firstly, my delivery hasn't turned up for the cage, so that's kind of one thing that's an issue. Then the second issue, when I was drilling up through the original holes on the frame to work out where the mounting points are in the fiberglass, because it's not marks on the fiberglass, realised that the front two go in okay, and the rear, it's slightly off. I can't seem to square the back of the body up. Now that's either an issue with the body itself, which I highly doubt, or what's more kind of going to be the problem, which I believe is the frame rails are either one's very slightly different or they're not quite right. So what I need to do realistically is get a good starting point to even start from. So it does mean I didn't want to do the frame rails just yet, but it does mean I'm probably going to have to get the frame rails out, square them up, weld in some like temporary braces for the time being, so I've got kind of a perimeter chassis that's solid. Now I thought just bolting the spreader bars in would be okay, but the bolt holes on them are quite big, so there is movement to have kind of the rails in kind of slightly off where they need to be, and it's pretty evidently the issue now. So I'm going to strip off in a minute, not myself, but I'm going to strip the body off, and we're going to look at the rails. Rail, we've got a bit of section done there. We've TIG welded down here on the outside. Obviously that's been ground back. There's a big TIG weld on the inside, but we're not going to bother grounding that back because obviously it's kind of pointless. You don't see it. It's nice to have a bit of material there. Now there's a gap here, obviously, because by the time when you turn it and the way that slowly gets smaller on the frame, that needs addressing. So you could weld that up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to relief cut it, knock it back, and then weld it up and flap the outside and weld all the inside up. So it will be kind of a nice smooth weld, but it's nice to have kind of the top section, if you can see, is an original piece. I've not had to cut that. So that's the rear rail. The next stage on this is I've got to chop the end off. Now I've quickly measured it on the vehicle and I know I've got to end it basically there. But instead of using the kind of spreader plate that you would do on a Model A, which is a really thin bit of metal, which I've got one. You bear with me, I'm doing some kind of really embarrassing kind of run, but here's what it is. Basically, it's a bit of stainless pipe. Now, that in an accident is just going to fold up. It's really thin metal. It's almost kind of like tin foil. So we're not going to be using that. Instead, I've got some CDS roll cage material, which is 2 inch. As you can see, it's really thick wall. It's nearly 3mm wall, I think. But yeah, it's beastly. So I'd rather get impacted in the rear.
That's what she said.
By a vehicle with this on the back than the other. So I'm going to mark out where I need it kind of on here. Ugh, straight into the ceiling. And we're going to try and replicate this round kind of finish on the end. Instead of just cutting that and moving it back, it's going to look ugly. We're going to just round up the end of the frame rails. I'm going to try and make it look semi-original, but I'm going to box it fully because obviously my intention is to use this rear bit and obviously the rest of the chassis to tow off of. So it needs to be kind of more substantial than just a single skin. I need to weld it all in properly. So that is the plan. I'm going to crack on. That now is a lot better, I think. It's got a small gap around there, but it's a lot better than it coming straight out kind of that angle as before. So we've got it nicely tucked with a bit of room. So the plan now is going to be to get the TIG welder down here, drop a tack at the top here, drop a tack at the bottom, and then I can obviously take the rail out completely, flap it back a little bit, make sure it's all nice and flat and welded up. Side welded, I've got the other one to do, but I'm probably going to do that tomorrow morning because realistically I can't be bothered, and it is now 5 o'clock, so can't really get away with making much more noise because people are coming home from work. So yeah, see you in the morning.
Go to sleep right now. Go to fucking sleep. Turn this phone off.
Good morning. So back in the garage now. Last night I decided to finish off the other rear frame rail, so that is done. And then this morning I've decided to try and get the rails on here and try and square everything up so I can drop a few tacks in, have something square to work on, and then probably get it back under the body. However, I've also realised that the issue with these rails is the way that they've been kind of press formed. The bottoms are not completely flat. So trying to get it level on the table, I can get it close, but I'm not going to get it perfect, which is quite annoying. The best thing I can do, realistically, other than try and kill myself by tripping over, is have some 90-degree angles bolted to the table. As you can see, one there and one there, and then I bolt the sides of the frame to that. Kind of hoping that the inners and the outer will kind of hold it as near to kind of straight all the way down as possible, which it kind of does. I can't square one rail to the other because I've got no reference point for measurement. The only reference points I have on this paperwork is the rail widths, but I've got nothing to kind of diagonally take any measurements from because the holes in them are not exactly cut where they need to be, annoyingly, and there's no front cross member in to even measure a diagonal back to there. I've only got a bar in the front which is bolted in. The bolts are kind of big holes both sides, so obviously that bar can move as well, so obviously that's not in, so there is literally no reference points. It's really annoying. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put something in that's not crucial. So the rear bar, obviously on this I know that's 40 inches wide. I've cut in some CDS tube which is here, and I'm going to use the TIG welder to drop a couple of TIG tacks in. What that's going to do is going to hold the rear end, and then I should be able to move where I need to very slightly the front end to try and get the cross member in, and then I've got some kind of point that I can actually measure from. I then may need to come back to take those tacks off and reweld the rear bar in if it's off square at the end of it. I don't think it will be, but I've got to start somewhere, and it makes sense for me to start with the least crucial part of the chassis. So I'm going to drop some tacks in, and then we're going to start running some measurements, hopefully. Happy with that. Now the table, unfortunately you can't see, but if I plop that on the table, look, whoa, no hands, that is bang on in the centre. I've propped a temporary bracing just to check this bit, and again we've got a centre level and a spirit level, and the rear is bang on in the centre again at the back. So I'm happy that we're kind of straight all the way down. Ideally I would like a bigger table to work on, but I don't have the big enough garage for that, unfortunately. So I've kind of got to just work on the bench when I can. So we're here, that is welded in. We've got a temporary bolted bracing, like I say, which is this bit here. That is going to be welded in a moment once I've kind of squared the front cross member up, because if I need to kind of pull anything front and back, I only want kind of the rear kind of welded at this point. I don't want to add some else in because then it's just not going to move. So we're going to jump onto the front. I'm going to try and move this frame all the way back, and then I'm going to look at potentially tacking in the cross member. I am going to tack the cross member in, I'm not going to fully send that, and then I can start putting some temporary braces all the way down the rails. However, at all points I also need to make sure that the reference points in terms of widths at the appropriate areas, which are where the bolt holes are, and obviously across the centre of the axle, is bang on perfect, which that is exactly what that needs to say on there. And even if it wasn't, I would like, because it's a video camera. But what have we got? We've got 40 and 7/8 of an inch. Oh, to be fair, 40 and 7/8 of an inch. I don't even need to lie on this one. But yeah, good to go. So let's get moving. So I've chucked a cheeky little centre line in. It just makes kind of things easier, and the more reference points I've got, the better realistically. So this is backed up all the way against the wall, so I can measure directly, hopefully off the wall, and try and get my kind of corner to corner measurement. As soon as I'm happy with that, it's a case of just welding a few bits and starting with the cross member. So I'm probably going to leave this video here, and then next video we're going to probably do some more heavy fabrication onto this, cross member in, some kind of temporary braces, maybe even the axle one in, and we'll chuck it into the car and see how it sits. So hopefully see you in the next video. Again, if you watched this far, thank you. Please pop some sort of comment, like, whatever below, just so I know I'm not going mental just talking to myself out here. But yeah, hopefully see you in the next video. Peace out.